7,100 people turn 65 every day in the U.S. 16.4% of Salem's population is 65 or older. Salem is a place for all ages and abilities to live and thrive for a lifetime.
If it's good for someone who is over age 50 or for someone older, it also tends to be good for kids. Or if it's good for kids, it probably also is good for someone who's a little bit older, which means that chances are it's good for everybody in between. I think the value of the format was that we did some surveying, so we got some feedback from people, and we had experts in each of the domains who talked about how their agency or their area of influence works with that domain. So first of all, it helped to get everybody on the same page or the level set, so everybody was working together from the same framework. What was neat about it was that it served to reinforce probably what most people would have guessed ahead of time, but it was consistent with other studies, both within the city and nationwide, about the kinds of things that we found and the things that we need to be concerned about.
I like the idea of identifying the different domains for people so that there was an opportunity for people to focus on particular issues and bring out the experts in those fields, the people that were associated with transportation, the people that were associated with health, the people that were associated with communication. I like having the opportunity to see all of those groups brought together. I think that it just in and of itself was beneficial as part of the process.
Think about that generation. They've got a lot of background and ideas toward other seniors. And think about them getting to be 50 and what they'd like to do.
I spent a lot of time going across the country and a few countries in the world, and it was a great experience. And most recently, I retired from Washington State Emergency Management, had a great-grandchild, and moved down here to be with him. I like Salem a lot. It's been easy to move here. Everything is pretty much where we need it, and it's where home is. One of the components was social participation, which really made me think of the intergenerational activities that we have available and maybe not enough of. And I'm really saddened that most of them are funding particular. So I hope that all of the folks that are working on the next phase, which requires action, will look at all of the opportunities and all of the small baby steps that can be taken towards a larger goal, and not be scared by the lack of funding for that larger goal.
I am the daughter of an older, aging parent, and about a year ago, my mother had major heart surgery, and for me, I believe, and for many others, I think this is a new group of baby boomers, and what we are now going to be experiencing here in the future. And of course, this was something that happened unexpectedly, and the next thing you know, my mother was living with me and my husband.
Transportation is interesting. As a person living with a disability, I've had MS for 24 years. I'm grateful I can still drive. There may come a time where I can't, either because of age or because of disability. And the reality is that right now where I live is 3 blocks from the bus stop, which would be my probably preferred method of transportation. So I walk down a steep hill using my cane, I walk up a steep hill, I walk down another steep hill, and that's just in 3 short blocks. Safety will be a real concern for me in doing that, because I have sometimes balance issues on, you know, flat ground, let alone walking up and downhill. And then the concern becomes connections. I have to change buses. How long will it be between buses? Will there be a place to sit? Will the sidewalk be in good repair when I get there, so I'm not going to be tripping and falling all over the place? Will there even be a sidewalk when I get where I'm going? Those are all questions that I have to ask. I have to ask those questions, a lot of those questions now anyway when I drive someplace. How close will I be able to park? Will the sidewalks be accessible? How far will it be? How long will it take? All those kinds of things.
So what is that? If you can't capture, block, or escape, what is it?
Checkmate.
Checkmate.
Sideways. I was very fortunate to prevail over such a worthy opponent. Great game.
When I start thinking about my life, I think about how I enjoyed different aspects, and most of them were my youth. And I'd really like to feel that again. And I do that most particularly when I'm with kids at the same age that I was. So children and young adults really bring home the good feelings that I had. I'd like to give you some ideas of how we could have more intergenerational programming. And one way would be to have more group meetings of organizations that already specialize. Most of us are particularly taking care of children or particularly taking care of older folks. And it would really be nice if we could have some joint activities. We can have more growth with that, and so there'll be more outreach to other young organizations and see how we can combine activities. And every bit of that fun is learning from one another.
So nice to come in here. Very, very good. Keep going, keep
All the way to the bottom.
all the tricks of the trade.
There you go.
The social participation domain covers, for an older adult in our Salem community, avenues where they can get out and participate, volunteer, be active in social ways, of course. And when we held our domain, we had a wonderful turnout of agencies and organizations focusing on ways for our adults to be more social and take part in the community.
I think a lot of times when we're planning an activity, we think, as we should, about the majority population. You know, because we want to get a lot of attendance for our thing. But the reality is that we're missing populations that are significant to our community, and we're missing populations that that could provide a great benefit to our programs. It's nice for people who are getting older to do things, events and activities where there are younger people involved. We get a lot of energy from that. We learn a lot from that. They learn a lot from hanging around older folks too. Everybody just stops and thinks, well, how will this affect someone who's getting a little bit older?
Communication is a really important part of anything that you do. If people don't know, for instance, if they don't know what's out there and available, then they can't access those services. If people don't know what organization is doing what in the community, then possibly there's duplication of services that isn't necessary. the issue of homelessness and senior homelessness in the community, and also the inability of people to get where they want to be because of lack of adequate transportation or the lack of knowledge about the availability of adequate transportation. Those were two things that really touched my heart. I want to stay in my home with my neighbors and in a place that's familiar to me, be able to go to the doctors that I like and shop where I want to, and just feel comfortable in my surroundings. But I think that's really what most people want, is to feel comfortable in their surroundings. I see situations that impact older adults. I work as a receptionist here at Center 50 Plus, and people come into the reception area. That's their first contact with the center, and we have very frequently senior people coming in asking, do you know where I can get a place to live? Do you know where I can find an affordable apartment?
A lot of the things that we talk about, we say, well, if we had the money to do this, we had the money to do that. Well, the reality is, it doesn't take a whole lot of money. It takes a little bit of time for us to make sure the conversation includes how are we making sure that everyone is welcome and included in this.
I think that the city of Salem is great. It has lots and lots of venues, and it has lots of festivals and things that we already do together. And if we could just spend more time thinking about how we could make each of those events more available and pleasant to every age, the older folks and the younger folks.
If every time an organization or an agency planned something, that they did it with all ages in mind. Is this something that would be friendly and accessible and useful and interesting to a person who's 80? Would it be something that would be accessible, interesting, accessible to someone who's 8? I started participation in the Age Friendly initiative as part of my assignment through a job program I'm in for people who are over age 55, have a disability and other mitigating circumstances. And I had the opportunity to kind of work with some folks and just design what would be a good experience for me to kind of complement what it is I'm interested in doing. And Marilyn at Center 50 Plus agreed to, said, you know, we might be able to use your skills on this project. Kind of excited, kind of leery, because it's taken me a while to adjust to the fact that I am in the population being studied. Because in my mind, I'm still not necessarily there, but pretty excited because it's part of a national and international project to make the world a friendlier place for people who are over 50. And with the boomer population aging, that population is increasing dramatically, and we need to be ready for it.
think about that generation. They've got a lot of background and ideas toward other seniors. And think about them getting to be 50 and what they'd like to do.
So this is just a little bit of the research I've done. I have some questions. I'm sure there'll be some answers.
I have a very varied background. I've actually been in government work pretty much all of my working life, and I've worked for every layer of government that exists, from the federal level down to the municipal level. And I've been really grateful to be able to have all of those experiences. I feel that it's important for me to be involved in the world, to do what I can to make my contribution to the city, to the state, to the federal government, to Center 50 Plus, City of Salem.
We have a guide to the ORSA, which actually goes step by step through each question. We have videos.
I don't think, first of all, that it means it's only focused on seniors. I think it means that we need to plan and adequately maintain programs and services and parks and things, events, things that are available and accessible to everyone, so that we can all people of all ages, from little children to senior citizens, can all feel like they're part of the community cares about them and supports them, so they can then in turn support the community themselves.
Right now, I'm feeling a little bit naive in that there may be a time when I don't even know if I'm asking the right questions. I may not even know all the questions I should be asking to plan for down the road. So I'm hopeful to find a resource person who can say, have you been thinking about this? And I hope they're direct about doing that. The connection to community surprised me. I thought the biggest concerns would be housing, transportation, and healthcare. I mean, that was just my thing going into it. Those are going to be the top ones. And the top one is a sense of connection, a sense of community.
Ideally, I think if people had the choice, they would choose to stay in their familiar surroundings, be a part of their community, know their neighbors. If I needed something, I can call my neighbor and say, can you come and help me? I think everybody wants that. They want to feel connected to the community. They want to feel they are part of the community. They are valued as a member of the community.
I want to keep working. I just want a little flexibility.
Affordable and accessible social activities.
I want affordable and accessible housing in the parts of town where I want to live.
I want transportation that is available and affordable and reliable.
I want to share my talents.
No one should be isolated.
I want a healthy lunch served to me each day in my own home.
Get people moving around the community, walking, biking, public transportation.
I want to know my doctor.
I want to spend time with people of all ages.
Sometimes I need help with a household chore or something needs fixed.
Please make font and print readable for all.
We need comfortable seating when waiting for buses.
I want to know my neighbor.
Phone trees are hard to navigate.
I need a place to rest at the park.
I want my mom to live near me, but have her own space.
85% of those surveyed reported that it is important that they are able to remain in their home as they age. Seniors love Salem.
I want to live close to things that I need. Grocery, bus lines, doctors,